I used to believe I had the perfect life. No, scratch that. I knew I had the perfect life. At least, that's what I told myself every single day. A beautiful wife. A dream home in a quiet neighborhood. 8 years of marriage that I thought were built on trust, love, and loyalty. I would wake up every morning to the comforting scent of fresh coffee brewing in the kitchen, the soft hum of our favorite morning playlist playing from the speaker, and the sight of Liza standing by the window, her golden hair catching the morning light just right, making her look almost angelic. She would turn toward me with that radiant smile, the same smile that made me fall in love with her all those years ago. "Morning, babe," she'd say, walking over to kiss me, her lips warm, her touch familiar. And every single time, I believed it. I believed in us. Our friends used to joke that we were the couple everyone envied, the one that had it all figured out. "If anyone's going to make it, it's you two," they'd say, clinking their glasses at dinner parties, raising toasts to our forever. And I would just nod, smiling like an idiot, drinking in the praise, so sure that my life was exactly what I had always dreamed of. But looking back now, I see the cracks. I see them so clearly, it's almost laughable. The way she'd pull her phone closer to her chest when I walked into the room, quickly swiping away notifications before I could even glance at her screen. The way her phone, always buzzing, always lighting up, was suddenly on silent whenever we were together. The late nights at work, the sudden, unexplained girls' trips that never seemed to come up in conversation until the day before she had to leave. The faint scent of cologne lingering on her clothes, a scent that wasn't mine. God, how blind was I? At the time, I brushed it off. I told myself I was overthinking, that I was just being paranoid, because she was my wife. Because she loved me. Because she would never do something like that, right? But the truth has a way of creeping up on you when you least expect it. And on one fateful night, when I least expected it, I learned the most painful lesson of my life. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage, about the woman I had dedicated 8 years of my life to, it was all a lie. And the worst part? She thought she could get away with it. She thought I would never find out. She thought I would stay oblivious forever. But she was dead wrong. It started small, so small that I barely noticed at first. Liza had always been affectionate, always the type to reach for my hand in the car, to kiss my cheek absent-mindedly as she passed by, to fall asleep with her head on my chest, breathing softly like she belonged there. But then something changed. She wasn't pulling away in an obvious way. Not at first. It was subtle, like a whisper in the background of our lives, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. But it was there. The kisses became shorter. The casual touches, those little moments of intimacy that made us, they started to fade. She was still there, physically, but it was as if a wall had gone up between us, invisible yet suffocating. She started going out more. Work meetings, dinner with the girls, weekend trips that she suddenly forgot to mention. At first, I didn't question it. Why would I? I wasn't the jealous type, and I never had a reason to doubt her. Until one night, when we were sitting on the couch watching a movie, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it quickly. Too quickly. Then, just as fast, she deleted the message. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She didn't even look at me. "Just work," she muttered, shoving her phone under a pillow. Work? At 11 p.m.? Something inside me twisted, but I forced myself to ignore it. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But the next day it happened again. And the day after that. And the day after that. The friend who saw what I didn't. Then came the night that changed everything. I was at the bar with my best friend, Josh. We had known each other since college. He was the kind of guy who could read me like an open book. He took a sip of his beer, then leaned in slightly, his voice lower than usual. "Hey, don't take this the wrong way, but you and Liza, everything good?" His words hit me harder than I expected. "Yeah, I said quickly, a little too quickly. Why? Josh hesitated. I don't know. Just she's been acting kind of different. Distant. I laughed it off. She's just busy with work. Josh didn't look convinced. He set his drink down, looking at me like he was about to say something he really didn't want to. Look, bro, I don't want to be that guy. But, you ever get the feeling she might be hiding something? The air between us went cold. My grip on my glass tightened. What are you trying to say? He shrugged. Just that? I've seen her out a couple times. And she wasn't alone. I felt my heartbeat in my ears. Who was she with? Josh hesitated again. That was all I needed to know. My stomach twisted into a knot. Denial, the last defense. That night, when I got home, Liza was already in bed, curled up under the blankets, her phone nowhere in sight. I stood in the doorway for a long time, watching her. I wanted to believe Josh was wrong, that I was wrong, that my wife wasn't keeping secrets from me, that my marriage wasn't crumbling right in front of me. But the truth was creeping in, and deep down I knew I just wasn't ready to face it. That night started like any other. Liza stood by the bedroom mirror, fixing her earrings, a small black suitcase sitting on the floor next to her. She looked beautiful, as always, dressed in a sleek navy blue outfit, her hair styled just right, her lips painted that deep red shade she always wore when she wanted to feel powerful. She glanced at me through the mirror with a casual smile. Don't wait up for me, babe. The flight's late, and I've got meetings back-to-back tomorrow. I'll barely have time to breathe. I nodded, trying to act normal, trying not to let the growing pit in my stomach take over. Where's the trip again? I asked, forcing a light tone. Chicago, she said smoothly, slipping her phone into her bag. I'll be back late Sunday night. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. You sure you don't need me to drop you at the airport? She let out a soft chuckle, walking over to kiss me on the cheek. Nah, I'm good. I already called a car. Just get some rest, okay? I watched as she wheeled her suitcase to the door, pausing only to glance at her phone before slipping it back into her pocket. A moment later, she was gone. I stood there for a long time, staring at the empty space where she had been. Something felt off, but I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was overthinking. Then the phone rang. The call that changed everything. Mobile phone buzz. Buzz. I picked up my phone absent-mindedly, still staring at the door. It was a number I recognized, Mike, one of my colleagues from work. Hey, man. I answered, forcing my voice to sound casual. There was a pause on the other end. Then Mike's voice came through, hesitant. Hey, Mark, you busy? Something in his tone made my body tense. No, what's up? Another pause. Listen, I wasn't sure if I should even call, but I just saw Liza downtown. And well, I thought she was supposed to be out of town. Every nerve in my body went ice cold. My grip on the phone tightened. Wait, what? I just saw her, man. Like 10 minutes ago. She was at that little wine bar on 5th. You know, the fancy one. She was with someone. A heavy silence hung between us. I swallowed, my throat dry. With who? Mike hesitated again. That pause. That damn pause. It told me everything I needed to know before he even spoke. I don't know, man. Some guy. They were sitting close, laughing. She looked pretty into him. My heart slammed against my ribs. Are you sure? My voice barely sounded like my own. Yeah, he sighed. I thought maybe it was a business thing, but it didn't look like work, bro. I hate being the one to tell you this, but I thought you should know. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My wife, the woman I loved, the woman who had just kissed me goodbye like nothing was wrong. She was supposed to be on a plane to Chicago. Instead, she was in the city, sitting across from another man, laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. Mark, Mike's voice pulled me back. You okay? I forced a slow breath. gripping the edge of the kitchen counter like it was the only thing keeping me upright. Yeah, I muttered. Yeah, thanks, man. I hung up without another word. For a few seconds, I just stood there, staring at the wall, my mind racing. Then, something inside me snapped. I needed to know the truth, and I wasn't going to wait any longer to find it. I didn't sleep that night. After the phone call, I sat in the dark, gripping my whiskey glass so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind was racing, replaying every interaction with Liza over the past few months. Every excuse, every late night, every quick glance at her phone before she'd flip it face down. I wanted to believe there was another explanation. That maybe Mike had made a mistake. That maybe I was jumping to conclusions. But deep down, I already knew the truth. I just needed proof. Setting the trap. I wasn't going to confront her without something solid. I needed undeniable, irrefutable evidence. Something she couldn't lie her way out of. So, I got to work. I spent hours researching, scrolling through forums, watching tutorials. By morning, I had installed a tracking app on her phone. It wasn't hard. I knew her passcode. She had given it to me years ago, back when trust wasn't an issue. Funny how things change. I also ordered a small, motion-activated camera online. Something discreet, something she wouldn't notice. But I wasn't going to wait for delivery. I needed something now. So I found an old webcam, rigged it up, and hid it in the living room behind a decorative plant. It wasn't perfect, but it would do the job. Now all I had to do was wait. The moment of truth. The next day, Liza left for work like nothing had happened. She kissed me goodbye, smiled like she always did, and walked out the door. I stared at her as she left, my stomach churning. Was she really going to work? Or was she meeting him? I checked the tracker. Her phone's location was moving, heading downtown. Okay, so far, nothing unusual. I went about my day, checking the app every now and then, but everything seemed normal. She was at her office, according to the GPS. Nos adenditurs, nos chadilukastins. For a brief moment, I let myself think maybe, just maybe, I had been wrong. Then, later that evening, everything changed. The alert that changed everything. I was sitting on the couch, staring at the screen, when my phone buzzed. Bell notification, Liza is home. My stomach dropped. Home? I checked the time. 9:47 p.m. But she had told me she had a late meeting, that she wouldn't be home until at least midnight. I switched to the camera feed, my hands trembling. The screen loaded, showing a grainy black and white view of our living room. At first, nothing. Just an empty couch. Then movement. A shadow. And then her. Liza walked in, tossing her purse onto the couch. She wasn't alone. My chest tightened as another figure followed her inside. A man. Tall. Confident. Moving way too comfortably in my house. She turned to him, said something I couldn't hear. And then, she kissed him. Right there. In my living room. On the same couch where we had spent lazy Sundays. The same couch where we had curled up together, whispering about our future. The same couch where she had told me she loved me. My hands clenched into fists. I had my proof, and now I had a decision to make. I sat there, frozen, my eyes locked on the screen. The room was dark except for the cold glow of my laptop. The shaky, grainy footage from the hidden camera played before me, each second making my chest tighten, my breath grow shallow. At first, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe this was some kind of misunderstanding. But then Liza stepped in a frame, my wife, and right behind her, walking into my home like he belonged there, was Daniel, betrayed by my own blood. Daniel, my best friend, the guy I had trusted more than anyone aside from Liza. The guy who had been my brother in every way but blood. The guy who had been my best man at our wedding, who had given a heartfelt speech about how Liza and I were soulmates. And here he was, in my house, with my wife, I felt like I had been sucker punched in the gut. I leaned in closer, my hands gripping the edge of my desk, so tightly I thought I might snap the wood in half. They were talking, laughing. Liza tossed her hair over her shoulder the way she always did when she was flirting. She touched his arm, then she leaned in and kissed him. I felt my entire world crack open. Flashbacks of lies. 1,000 memories flooded my mind at once. Daniel had always been around. We had been inseparable since college. He was the guy I called when I needed advice, the one who had helped me pick out Liza's engagement ring, the one who had stood beside me as I promised my life to her. And now he was the one kissing my wife. The way he touched her, it wasn't hesitant, it wasn't awkward. It was familiar, like this wasn't the first time, like they had done this before, like this had been happening for a long, long time. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. The video gets worse. I wanted to shut the laptop. I wanted to erase what I had just seen, to pretend like it wasn't real. But I couldn't look away. Daniel followed her to the couch, our couch, and pulled her close. His hand slid down her back as she whispered something in his ear. He laughed, a low, cocky sound, like he had already won. Like I was some kind of joke to them. Like I was the fool. And maybe I was, because all those late nights, all those excuses, the random times Daniel just happened to be in the neighborhood and wanted to stop by, it had never been a coincidence. I had been too blind to see it, too stupid to suspect it. Until now, the realization hits hard. My chest felt tight. I could barely breathe. This wasn't just about infidelity. This wasn't just a one-time mistake. This was betrayal at the deepest level. My wife, my best friend, they had been lying to me together. How long? Weeks? Months? Years? I felt something cold settle in my stomach, something heavier than rage. Something darker. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about revenge. I sat in the darkness of my home. My home. The same home where I had built a life with Liza. The same home where Daniel had laughed with me over beers, pretending to be my brother. But now, that home felt different. It wasn't a place of love anymore. It was a crime scene, a place where my trust had been murdered. I could feel the weight of the betrayal pressing down on me, suffocating me. But instead of drowning in it, instead of letting it break me, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to let them win. No, I was going to make them pay. Collecting the evidence, the art of war. I knew one thing. If I was going to do this, I had to do it right. I couldn't just storm into the house and start screaming. That would be too easy for them. It would make me look weak, like some broken-hearted fool who lost everything. I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. Instead, I collected proof. I went through our phone records. Hundreds of late-night calls between Liza and Daniel. I checked our shared cloud storage. Photos. Dozens of them. Some in hotels. Some in cars. Some in places I recognized, places I had taken Liza myself, back when I thought she only had eyes for me. Then I checked our home security system. Liza didn't know this, but our doorbell camera recorded logs even when we weren't home. And guess what? Daniel had been here. A lot. Sometimes when I was at work. Sometimes when I was out of town. And sometimes even when I was asleep upstairs. That realization hit me like a freight train. They had been so sure I would never find out. They thought I was clueless. They thought they were invincible. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. The perfect trap, making them pay. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted justice. I wanted them to feel humiliated, exposed. So I came up with a plan. A perfect, calculated plan. Step 1. Back up all the evidence. I uploaded everything to multiple drives, made copies, and ensured that even if they somehow got their hands on my laptop, I'd still have access. Step 2. Control the narrative. I wasn't going to let them gaslight me. I printed screenshots, timestamps, emails, a full case file of their betrayal. Step 3. The ultimate reveal. I wanted them both in the same room. I wanted to watch their faces as their world crumbled around them. So I set the stage. I planned a special dinner, an intimate evening just for us. Liza had no idea what was coming. She thought everything was normal, but I knew, and soon so would she. No escape. They'll hear the truth. The day of the dinner, I played my role perfectly. I sent Liza a sweet text. "Hey babe, let's have a date night tonight. Just us. I feel like we haven't connected in a while." Her reply came fast. "That sounds amazing, love. Can't wait, red heart." Lying. So effortlessly. I had to fight the urge to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I smiled to myself. Because tonight, she would walk into this house thinking it was just another normal night. Thinking she still had control. Thinking she still had me. And in just a few hours, her entire world was going to burn. That night, the air felt different. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was fake. Or maybe, deep down, I had always known that sooner or later, I would catch them in the act. I left work earlier than usual. I told my team I had a headache, something about needing to rest. But the truth? I wasn't going home to rest. I was going home to end this. The drive home. The calm before the storm. As I drove through the quiet streets, my fingers tightened around the steering wheel. The radio was playing some old song, but I wasn't listening. My mind was already at home, already picturing what I would find. Would she be alone? Or would he be there? I had my suspicions, my proof, my cold, hard evidence, but actually seeing it, catching them red-handed, that was something different, something that would change everything. I pulled up to the house. The lights were on, and then, as I stepped out of the car, I heard it. Laughter. Not just any laughter. Hers. The sound of Liza's voice. Playful, teasing, intimate. And then another voice. A man's voice. His voice. Daniel. In my house. In my bedroom. I felt a surge of cold rage flood through me. This was it. No more hiding. No more waiting. It was time. The moment everything changed. I didn't hesitate. I marched up to the front door and pushed it open, hard. The sound echoed through the house. Silence. For a second, just a second, everything stopped. Then, shuffling. Whispered voices. A door upstairs creaked. I took the stairs two at a time, my heart pounding, my blood rushing so fast I could barely think. The voices got louder. I knew exactly where they were. Our bedroom. My bedroom. My fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. I reached the door. I could hear them now. Liza's voice, breathy, teasing. Daniel's laugh, low, cocky. And then, I kicked the door open. Their worst nightmare. Time slowed. Liza was there, half-dressed, sitting on the edge of our bed, her hair messy, her lips red. And Daniel, my best friend, was standing beside her, his shirt undone, frozen mid-motion as he turned toward the door. Their faces, God, their faces. Shock, panic, fear. Liza gasped, scrambling to cover herself. And Mark. Daniel took a step back, his face pale. Dude, No. No excuses. No lies. I stepped forward, my voice low, deadly. You really thought I wouldn't find out? Neither of them spoke. They just stared at me, their betrayal written all over their guilty, lying faces. Liza opened her mouth, trying to say something, but I held up a hand. Don't, I snapped. My voice was eerily calm, even as I felt my entire world crashing around me. She flinched. Daniel took another step back like a coward, a pathetic, backstabbing coward. They thought they had won. They thought I was stupid. They thought I would never know. But they were wrong. And now, they were about to pay. The room was dead silent, except for the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Liza was sitting on the bed, her bare shoulders trembling. Her eyes were wide, glossy with fear. She knew. She knew there was no talking her way out of this. Daniel, my so-called best friend, stood there like a deer caught in headlights, frozen, unable to meet my eyes. His shirt was still unbuttoned, his belt half undone, and for the first time in his smug, arrogant life he looked terrified. Good. Because he should be. They both should be. I didn't speak at first. I just reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and scrolled through my files, the proof. Videos, screenshots, timestamp calls, everything. And then without a word, I hit play. Their sins exposed in HD. Speaker high volume beep, recording started. The screen flickered to life, and suddenly, the room was filled with their voices. Liza's laughter, Daniel's voice, smooth and cocky. The unmistakable sound of kissing. I had edited nothing. I wanted them to hear exactly what I had heard. Liza flinched as her own voice filled the room. Speech balloon Liza, on video, God, I don't even feel guilty anymore. Mark is so clueless. I heard her actual breath hitch in real time. Her hands covered her mouth, her whole body shaking. I turned the volume up. Speech balloon Daniel, on video I told you. He's too nice, too trusting. That's why we've gotten away with it for this long. Boom! The words hit like a bullet to the chest. My grip on the phone tightened, my knuckles white. I turned to Liza. Her face had completely drained of color. She looked like she was going to throw up. Explain this. I finally spoke. My voice was low, steady, dangerous. Would you like to explain what's happening here? Liza shook her head violently, tears already spilling down her face. Mark, don't. I cut her off, my tone like ice. Don't you dare. She gasped like I had struck her. I turned to Daniel, who was still avoiding my gaze like the coward he was. What about you? I asked, my tone laced with venom. Got anything to say, bro? He swallowed hard, opened his mouth, closed it again. He had nothing. Because what excuse could he possibly have? He had been caught. They both had. The breakdown. Liza finally cracked. She collapsed into sobs, clutching the sheets like they could somehow save her. Mark, please, she sobbed. I never wanted to hurt you. It just happened. I finished for her, my voice dripping with disgust. She nodded rapidly, desperate. It was a mistake, she choked. I love you. It didn't mean anything. I laughed. A sharp, humorless, cold laugh. Didn't mean anything? I repeated, shaking my head. I held up my phone, scrolling. Photo after photo. Call logs. Texts. All spanning months. I turned the screen toward her. This, I said, my voice steady, deadly calm, looks like a hell of a lot more than a mistake to me. Liza covered her face with her hands, shaking uncontrollably. But I wasn't done. I turned to Daniel. You. His head snapped up. You looked me in the eye for years, I said, stepping closer, my hands trembling with fury. Called yourself my brother. My best friend. You were at my wedding. Daniel finally looked at me, and for the first time in his life, he looked like a man who regretted everything. Mark, I'm sorry, he whispered. I exploded. You're sorry. My voice roared through the room. You were sleeping with my wife for months, and all you have to say is sorry. Daniel flinched. I held up the phone again. Speaker high volume Liza, on video. I don't even feel guilty anymore. Mark is so clueless. His mouth snapped shut. Because what could he say? There was no apology that could fix this. No words that could undo what they had done. And the best part? This was just the beginning of their downfall. The room was drowning in silence. Liza sat on the bed, her face streaked with tears, her hands trembling as she clutched the sheets like they were the only thing keeping her from collapsing. Daniel stood frozen, pale as a ghost, sweat beading on his forehead. His usual arrogance was gone, ripped away, exposed, obliterated. I could feel it in the air, the weight of everything. The fear, the shame, the dawning realization that they weren't getting out of this. And they were right, because this wasn't over. Not even close. I pulled out my phone, unlocked it with steady hands, opened my social media, and without hesitation, I went live. The live stream that broke them. Red Circle Live. The screen loaded. The viewer count started ticking up immediately. People were joining fast. I turned the camera to myself, my expression calm, controlled, deadly. Mobile phone, hey everyone. I've got a little surprise for you tonight. You see, I've been married to this amazing woman for 8 years. 8 years of love, trust, and devotion. The camera panned to Liza. She gasped, her eyes wide with horror. Mobile phone, meet my wonderful wife, Liza. Liza shook her head violently, scrambling off the bed, her hands reaching toward the phone. Mark, no, please, she choked, her voice desperate. I stepped back, out of reach. Mobile phone and this guy? This is my best friend, Daniel. The man I trusted with my life. The man who stood next to me at my wedding. My brother. The camera turned to him. Daniel looked like he was about to throw up. He took a step back, raising his hands like he could somehow stop this train wreck from happening. Mobile phone, and guess what? They've been screwing behind my back. For months. Maybe even years. The chat exploded. Speech balloon, WTF? Speech balloon, no way. Speech balloon, bro, expose them. Speech balloon, she's crying now. LMAO, where was that energy before? Speech balloon, dude, this is insane. The numbers kept climbing. 1,200. And it was only the beginning. Her desperate attempt to stop it. Liza collapsed onto her knees, sobbing. Mark, please, please. You don't have to do this. I made a mistake. I laughed. A cold, hollow laugh. Mobile phone, oh, a mistake? Let's see if it still looks like a mistake to everyone watching. I held up my second phone, the one with the evidence. Then I played the audio. Speaker high volume, Liza. Recording, I don't even feel guilty anymore. Mark is so clueless. Speaker high volume, Daniel. Recording, I told you. He's too nice. Too trusting. That's why we've gotten away with it for this long. But boom. Liza let out a piercing sob, shaking her head violently. Daniel muttered a curse under his breath, running his hands through his hair, his whole body tense. They knew. There was no coming back from this. The internet turns against them. The comments were ruthless. Speech balloon, bro, this is gold. Speech balloon, she's only sorry 'cause she got caught. Speech balloon, damn, this guy's best friend really said betrayal with his whole chest. Speech balloon, post this everywhere. She deserves it. Speech balloon, imagine your life getting ruined in 4K live. More and more people joined. I saw mutual friends popping in. Family members. People who knew her. Who knew us. And now, they knew the truth. Liza collapsed onto the floor, shaking. Daniel looked like a dead man walking. And me? I smiled, because for the first time in months, maybe even years, I was the one in control. The end of them. I let the live run for a few more minutes, letting the world drink in their humiliation. Then, finally, I turned the camera back to myself. Mobile phone, and that, my friends, is what betrayal looks like. Thanks for watching. Click. The stream ended. Silence. Liza was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Daniel was pale, his hands clenched into fists. They both knew what had just happened. Their reputations? Destroyed. Their lies? Exposed. And their lives? Ruined. I pocketed my phone, turned toward the door, and grabbed my keys. Without another word, without even looking back, I walked away. Because now they were nothing to me. And I was finally free. A month had passed. 30 days since I had walked out of that house for the last time. Since I had left behind the lies, the betrayal, the poison that had been rotting my life from the inside out. And now, I was finally free. The new life, Mark's rebirth. The apartment wasn't as big as the house I had shared with Liza, but it was mine. No ghosts of broken promises lingering in the walls. No memories of whispered, "I love yous" that had meant nothing. Just a clean slate. A fresh start. I had repainted the walls, thrown in some new furniture, and for the first time in years, I could breathe. No more waking up in a bed that smelled like betrayal. No more checking my phone, wondering if the woman lying next to me was texting someone else. No more pretending. It was just me. And for the first time in forever, that was enough. The ruins of Liza's life. Liza, on the other hand, she wasn't doing so well. The fallout from the live stream had been brutal. Friends? Gone. Family? Disgusted. Her social media had turned into a war zone. Hundreds of comments, people dragging her name through the dirt, calling her out for what she was. And the job she had been so proud of? Yeah, she lost that too. Turns out, companies don't take too kindly to scandals going viral. She had tried to reach out to me, called me, texted me. At first, it was apologies. Then it was begging. Then anger. Blaming me for exposing her, for ruining her life. Like she hadn't ruined mine first. I didn't respond. Not once. Because some people don't deserve closure. Some people deserve to sit in the mess they created. Daniel, the fall of a snake. And Daniel? He got what he deserved too. Turns out his fiancée, yeah, the woman he was supposed to marry, she saw the video. She dumped him on the spot. Publicly. Humiliatingly. Right in the middle of a crowded restaurant. She stood up, called him a pathetic cheating loser, and threw a drink in his face. The video of it went viral. Poetic justice. He lost everything, his job, his fiancée, his reputation. And from what I heard, Liza and Daniel weren't even speaking anymore. Guess they were only fun when they had me to lie to. The final chapter. Peace. One evening, I stood on my new balcony, staring at the skyline, a whiskey glass in my hand. The city below buzzed with life. People moving forward, living their stories. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was living mine. Mobile phone buzz. A text popped up. "Josh, proud of you, man. You made it out." I smiled. Yeah, I did. I had walked through the fire. I had watched everything I thought I knew burn to the ground. But from the ashes, I had built something new, something better. Because here's the thing about the truth. It always finds the light.